Very good afternoon, everybody, and I'll try to keep you alive, not getting the retributions of the lunch and the hospitality that we are enjoying here. I'm going to talk about new cryptographic constructions and their certification or certification items. And I want to stress for the very beginning that I don't mean PQ. Okay? I will not be talking about post-quantum crypto. I will look into some other animals in the cryptographic zoo that we attempt to certify recently. In the very beginning, disclaimer, and this is not a legal person's disclaimer, this is my personal disclaimer. I may harm somebody's feelings if there are people who worked for the US government in the 80s and 90s. Maybe I will touch upon your feelings. Maybe I will touch upon feelings of people who did it with their best attempts, wrote some new proposals that I unfortunately will criticize. I'm really sorry about hurting the feelings, but I mean seriously what I'll be saying later on. I want to thank, for the very beginning, except for thanking beer, to two assistants that were contributing to my project when preparing this presentation. The first one is the crystal ball that, in various shapes, we are using here or there. The second one is the SecSearch tool that you have been seeing few presentations about, especially the one in this very morning. And these thoughts that I'll be sharing with you today are or were coming through my head when I worked for a great company in Estonia, Cybernetica, during my sabbatical this year. And while I cannot share with you what we worked upon there, I can share with you my feelings and the ideas that were coming to my mind during this wonderful project in the spring and early summer. When you think of positive effects of certification, be it for cryptographic products or other things that we certify in IT in general, there are definitely many positives. And I don't have to go through this list. I hope that we will more or less agree on these. But acknowledging these positives of certification, we must beware that there is price to pay. Nothing comes for free. So there are some negative aspects as well. Beyond the cost in terms of resources and time, it's definitely the maintenance overhead with the new versions, recertifications, and related things. Then limited innovation, because once you get your thing certified, customers rely on that certification. You want to keep that market. And maybe you are expanding the functionality, but very often, if you really think of the procedures involved, you decide to leave certain things out of the scope for the certification. So it does not get really reviewed, it does not get really certified what is the new stuff that you are bringing in. And last but not least, certification unfortunately fragments markets as well. And one of my first games with the crystal ball in the shape of ChatGPT was asking for real-world examples of famous product certifications in the IT. And before I will share them with you, I want to give this a thought. I mean, I'm not starting a quiz night for the organizers, but start thinking for about 10-15 seconds and consider what famous IT certifications, not only in security, you are aware of. This is what ChatGPT suggested this summer. Wi-Fi, obvious. FCC, obvious. Common criteria. First, security relevant. Number 3 on this list. Not that bad for people who are engaged with security. Underwriter Labs certification. And last but not least, PCI DSS. So the top 5 is coming with 2 security-relevant certifications. And if we ask for the worst failures, because this is what I was at that moment interested in, and this was completely irrelevant to my work at that time, but I was thinking, okay, but we have so many nice products. We do the certification with the best attempt and best spirit, but things fail. Intel bug from the 90s. Samsung mobiles and their batteries, that's why we get entertained in the phones. If your mobile gets in the seat, do not attempt to save it yourself. Ask for the qualified personnel in the shape of the stewards and stewardesses. Heartbleed. Not that well known in Europe, but pretty well known in the US, the launch of the healthcare.gov in 2013. And pretty famous, at least in the academia, the Therac 25 radiation machine and its failure in the 80s. Okay, and then I went after crypto. What were the big problems despite of crypto certifications? And now again, 10 or 15 seconds for you. What would you imagine being the big failures of security-relevant products with cryptography that failed, and the failure was front-page news? Obviously, Heartbleed, we had that here before. ROCA vulnerability, the Infineon smart cards and IDs in Estonia, Slovakia, and other countries. And Mr. Snowden, sharing with us some of the knowledge about the EC generator. So these were the three big failures according to ChatGPT. And now let's go to the topic finally. I entertained you with my interactions with ChatGPT, but now let's get to the topic of certifying cryptographic constructs. History is coming with one very great example. In the 70s, in the late 70s, considerations of a federal standard for a cryptographic algorithm that would be used to protect unclassified data. Have a call. Not really very open, but let's have a call. Run the competition and discussion only in the closed circles. Then tweak some parameters for the good to improve the security. But then you want a backdoor, and you don't do it the legislative way, you tweak some parameters for your own good. And you have an algorithm. And where are you standing with that algorithm? You are in a position where, and this is very speculative, you can read some critical data, but at a cost. You have to pay a lot of money to maintain this ability. So, to protect your investment, you make sure in circles like ISO and other standardization bodies that nothing really better gets certified, so that the algorithm that you took really good care of is being in practical use as widely as possible for as long as possible. So this is probably not the way that we want to go. And let's look at the next call in this area, AES. With the call of AES, things were going definitely a different way, I would argue a better way, but still there were some surprises. If you recall that time of AES competition, you may recall that there were some initial criteria for the evaluation who will be the winner. The initial setup then changed. General security, implementation in both software and hardware in terms of operability and ease of use, implementation attacks put separately, highlighted, put into more prominent position for a very good reason, because if you remember the first so-called, today called side channel attacks coming in the late 90s, this was the time. And flexibility in various dimensions. So one can argue that, okay, changing the criteria during the call is not the best way for transparency of the decision. On the other hand, I believe that most of us can have a lot of sympathy with this decision and a lot of understanding why the things went the way they went. But what were the results of this exercise? First of all, a big surprise, non-American algorithm being selected. Second, if you recall the 5 shortlisted finalists of the AES competition, the one that was chosen was not the one with the high level of security branding, the label high, but only adequate. It was an algorithm with great performance advantages. No doubt about that. So, then I spent a lot of time, and these were really dialogues and reshaping and prompt engineering at its core. What and where are crypto and certifications, security certifications going out now? And I got out of ChatGPT this list. That is more or less obvious, nothing really surprising, nothing really stunning. We have to consider that a lot of us, and especially the people with whom we work in terms of compliance, will have in the near future and already actually this year and the past year, pay a lot of attention to the new regulations if we work or if part of our business is within the European Union, considering the regulations that are rolling on, and this avalanche will be hitting our business hard. In many ways, in a positive way. In many ways, I believe it will be detracting attention that could be paid to more useful and more interesting research and exercises. What is coming hand in hand? Well, we have the regulations, and then we have the certified products. We heard quite a big deal today about FIPS 140 certifications, and a reminder of the FIPS 140 version 3 is actually the time it took for the standard to come out. And we can put some blame on ISO, and we can put blame on different things, but 15 years is 15 years. It's a lot of time. And as was emphasized in a great talk about FIPS 140-3 today, still we have to live with version 2 for about a year. Is there stuff that is interesting for new cryptography? Let's come to that later. Before I share with you some basics for who is not familiar with common criteria at all and wants me to spend 2 minutes on this. Raise your hand, please. Okay, one person. When I will be speaking of security target, that's an important claim. That's, let's say, the theory. And evaluation against common criteria is, in essence, from the perspective that I will be needing, is a call, here is my product, here is the security target, my claim, and here you guys at the lab verify whether the thing that I'm bringing meets the claim or not. Okay? So security target will be a very important component for our future discussion. The cases that I picked for modern crypto, you can argue with me that this is not modern crypto. Homomorphic encryption we've been reading about since previous century. First dissertations with realistic prototyping and things like that. It's late 1990s. Okay, but still, as far as I know, homomorphic encryption is not included in any FIPS-approved algorithmic suits. Okay, we can see it in reality in the first let's say we can still call it piloting implementations. It's been around for past few years. First products are out there, but it's not mass coverage. There are problems: high computational overhead and need for hardware acceleration. Institutions like DARPA are heavily investing in accelerating homomorphic encryption. The proofs are evolving together with the implementations. So, what do we see in terms of homomorphic encryption outside of FIPS 140 in common criteria certified products? We get to see something. The target of evaluation, the thing that was evaluated against common criteria, is a homomorphic encryption engine for database queries. This is a quote from a certification document of this year. And now you read this sentence. I'll give you a minute or 15 seconds to read it. And maybe if you are a native speaker like me, you are puzzled. Is it or is it not? You know, and then you read the document further, and your heart goes happy. The document says the TOE is the zero reveal compute fabric, blah, 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 including libraries like the SEAL homomorphic encryption library version 3.7.2. Oh, wow! So we have the first thing that is certified against common criteria. But you better don't stop reading at this point. Because a few paragraphs later, you read this. Excluded functionality. Okay, I've been using English as my second language for about 30 years or 35 years. I'm puzzled here. And this is the language that you will see in non-trivial number of weird common criteria certificates. Last point that I will add to this, because I'm just 3 minutes ahead of my finish time. It's certified not as a crypto, it's certified as application software. Second thing that I wanted to examine was multi-party computing. And we have actually two things, two beasts, and I would keep them in separate cages for multi-party computing. One is with respect to crypto key operations, where the security targets address threshold crypto schemes and essentially decentralized signing, where the key shares for signing are split between more than one party. And the security target allows to implement MPC essentially internally to secure the keys, but still claiming conformance to the existing, let's say, old school cryptographic protection profiles. And there are challenges, but still we are talking of cryptographic keys, really short data. But first certificates are out there, and this is more or less becoming a common thing. Well, the second thing is more tricky because now we talk of bigger data, bigger than standard cryptographic keys. And there the speed really matters. Standards are missing. And the threat models are significantly trickier than threshold crypto and split keys. Nothing in this area on the certification front for the moment. So, when examining various things in homomorphic encryption, multi-party computing, I get to my crystal ball, what would you suggest we do when we entertain new security targets and design of security targets for new cryptography? Well, certified crypto is better than random crypto. Okay, we can probably agree with that. Always combine certified crypto with audits, formal proofs where possible, and assume that future attacks will happen. Okay, not bad, but well, honestly, I won't add much more. I'm not that better than ChatGPT. But few things I will add. Keep a good understanding all through the process that you know why you certified. People get very often easily distracted and away from their original aim when getting involved in the details of certification document. Map the ecosystem extremely well. Use a tool like our sect search to understand what's around, where you can not reinvent the wheel, and don't fear mistakes while doing that. So many thanks for your attention. I want to give credit to a project that funds this exercise for us. I want to lead your attention or drive your attention also to a new project that we are starting next year, where tools like sect search will be examined in the industry and will be improved to the fit of others. And I will, if OpenSSL is running conference here next year, I will definitely want to share some of the ideas and potentials for cooperation with you here during autumn next year. Thank you very much for your attention.